This is the CW Spiral, a podcast run by three survivors of the CW's calling in 2022. We're your hosts, Sabrina Reed,
Michael Patterson,
and Reed Gaudens,
bringing you history about the network and the WB, the latest news and in-depth Sporterville discussions of the best and messiest shows to ever grace the small screen. So, welcome to an extra stuffed pod episode because CW had their TCA, which means that we have a lot of news to share. Right off the top, the main thing that we care about is that Wildcard's apparently being eyed for a renewal. Season 2 is in the sights. The CW just has to greenlight it.
My favorite bit of news from yesterday, from the whole lot we got, because we love wild cards on this pod. It's been felt like such a success for the CW, perhaps the first in quite some time. It feels like a no-brainer at this point. I feel like we're just waiting on the announcement. You know what? That's a good thing because, like I said, we love wild cards.
I've never seen an announcement of we're thinking about renewing it. What is that?
I don't know. I don't know if this is, I think the news came in one of those deadline articles that they've been doing lately where they speak to the entertainment presidents for the networks. And so it's reminding me of the CBS president talking about NCIS, which has not been greenlit for season 22, but she basically said that it's not going to get canceled anytime soon as long as they want to do it. So it's it's a green light, but it's not a green light just yet. Because they can't, I guess, officially say it, or don't want to officially say it. So with the CW, this might have to do with talks with the production company. I have really no idea. The Brad Sports did say, it's dependent on ratings. Everything is now depending on ratings again. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt. But it has been very solid. He's mentioned that because it gets around 500,000 views on the night, that it then grows to 1 million, which is what they want to see. Which, I mean, yes, season 2, I want to say I can't say surefire. It's a certain, but it just feels very strong that it will get picked up.
Yeah, it seems like the vibes are positive.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but it just reminded me I saw this on social media last night and I want to bring it up. I've seen people saying in reference to the ratings or the ratings of wild cards and them thinking about renewing it because of the viewership, and certain fans have been saying oh, other CW shows had more viewership and they got canceled. We need to let that go. They were canceled because of money.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that? I'm
Yeah.
How are we still there? We need to put that to bed because it's a completely different network now.
It is, I think that's one of those group chat conversations. Y'all know that every time I see a conversation about ratings, I'm Wendy. But it is a discussion about money. I think, when other people are celebrating their show potentially being renewed, being in the comments talking about how, well, that's not fair because our show did such and such numbers on such and such night, forever, the Live Plus 7 numbers. It's still canceled though.
Yeah,
and it's context. Not in this. Yeah, it's just not coming back.
No. Yeah, you guys know I'm not a fan of that pointing fingers game. What about this? That's not fair. But I understand it does sting. I think we will always have that place in our heart for Wendy. But I don't know. I whenever I see that, I'm can we stop trying to drag this show down just because it's a success and our other shows got canceled? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No, I think, like you said, context is needed because it'd be different if we were talking about, say, the lineup in a year from now, and it shows some of the newer shows that are in the same position as the others. It's an in-house CW show, and 2 in-house CW shows, and the conversation is that it's all about ratings, but one show that got higher ratings is somehow getting canceled. Or they're doing the same ratings amount, but one is canceled and the other is kept. That's a different conversation than this was a WB show, this was a CBS show, and they don't have the rights to it. So therefore, they're actually not benefiting from it airing on the CW, which is why it got canceled.
Hmm.
Exactly. This is a beneficial situation for the CW, and for next star at least, some of those old WB and CBS shows coming over wasn't beneficial for them and they were expensive. So don't get me wrong, I was on the wrong end of a lot of those cancellations. I was very sore. You can go back and listen to it if you want. I was very sore about a lot of them ones, but like I do understand from a business point of view that the current game plan seems to be working for them and Wildcard seems to be at the top of that. And as a fan of the show, I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, outside of Sullivan's Crossing, it's their second hit, right? They're the consistent drawer. And a lot of that has to do with promotion, though.
Hmm.
And Wild Cards is kind of everywhere right now, in a way
Nice to
that other
say.
CW shows, well, other CW shows, CW shows, other CW shows were not. And it is nice to see.
Yeah, it's like a throwback.
Hmm. What's not a throwback necessarily is what's coming in April. So like
Hmm.
the CW did announce their schedule. I'm just gonna run through it. On Monday, April 1st, All American Season 6 will premiere at 8 p.m., followed by Lovers and Liars at 9 p.m. It does mean that All American Mondays are no more. Lovers and Liars is Edgar Island, just so you know. It's repackaged, it's rebranded, but it's that show. Wednesday, April 3rd is when Walker Season 4 premiere at 8 p.m., followed by Sight Unseen. Sight Unseen is another Canadian property. I believe it's currently airing in Canada. So we are episodes behind. Well, actually, it might finish by the time
Mhm.
that it airs on the CW. But that also means with Walker coming on Wednesdays, there are no longer Walker Thursdays. We're just switching things up here. Thursday, April 11th, it's Patty Stranger, the Matchmaker at 8 p.m. And then Lovers and Liars will fall into its regular time slot at 9 p.m. on Thursdays, which means I'm not really sure what they're going to do on Mondays
Okay, I was just
starting
about to
then.
ask you. I was just about to ask you that.
I have a feeling that we're going to do that thing they've been doing, which it'll be a rerun of Lovers and Liars airing after All
Mm,
American.
it's a waste.
Yes, yes, it is. Friday, April 26th, Penn and Teller Fool Us will have a new episode. It's just staying at its spot. And then 100 Days to Indy season 2 will premiere at 9 p.m. I had called it NASCAR in the previous pod. IndyCar is a whole different thing. So race car fans, this will be your time. And then Tuesday, April 30th, you're getting the whole cop block. At 8 p.m., it's Police 24/7. And at 9 p.m., it's Hostage Rescue. We will be on neither of those rides.
Hmm.
Not a single one of those rides. But if you enjoy it, good for you.
Are those unscripted?
Those are unscripted, yeah. It's a heavily unscripted schedule. The only scripted programs are All American, Walker, and Sight Unseen.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, God bless them on their journey for that. Um, Holding Homecoming is a choice. Walker and Sight Unseen, interesting pairing. Wait, I won't roast the schedule. Let me, Brad, I'm sorry.
Well, I guess it is for Walker and Sight Unseen, they're both police procedurals. Walker is more of a family
Oh,
drama.
well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I would have been like hold ride at that point. I don't know.
Hmm.
Mm.
I guess maybe because Wildcards has proven such a hit on Wednesday in that slot. Has that become the new like superhero slot, the coveted slot that gets the high ratings? So maybe you moved Walker into it, but
Was Walker on Thursdays before?
yeah.
It was.
I mean, Walker Wednesdays. I've been begging for this, I
Yeah,
think.
this is very true. Again, if you go back and listen to earlier episodes, I'm pretty sure that's on it.
I do kind of think that they should re-air Wild Cards in full after All American.
Mm,
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
That's
like
something to
just
serve.
keep letting people watch it.
Mm.
yeah,
That should be like I hate when networks like they air it once and then if it doesn't go to streaming, it's like, well, too bad. I'm like, no,
yeah.
let people watch shows. I don't know.
And
Mm.
if it is returning for season two, it would build up excitement for season two. Maybe even introduce it to a whole new audience. I remember when the OG CW bought or got Supergirl, they aired all of season one during the summer on the CW from CBS so that they could build up for season two. So again, I think that's a great idea, especially with what's on Mondays again? I've already forgotten. All American, All American garnering solid ratings. Having wild cards after it good for the show.
Has
Yep,
Homecoming ever aired without All American?
I want to say no, outside of potentially like if All American was a hiatus, but
Mm,
Homecoming was not. But it's generally the lead-in
Mm.
for the college drama. So, I mean, the reasoning behind that though was apparently that they feel like Homecoming is strong enough to stand on its own. And they want to get it to a point where it's even more solid about standing on its own, which is a good thing. We'll just see how well that works. I also think, with it most likely airing in the summer, because they did say that it'll air after All American season 6 finishes, they might just need a summer spot since they don't
Yeah.
have a summer tentpole.
And hmm,
kind of interesting.
hmm.
Imagine another show in the summer again. Feels like the post-pandemic days, when the last days of the OG CW. I know Next Star wanted to get things back to normal with a normal schedule, but I guess when you have this amount of programming, one of them has to go in the summer.
Yeah. Though I do wonder then if Joan is coming in the summer. I think they might have I feel like I saw a journalist who was at TCA talking about how they had shown them a little bit of it.
Hmm.
So maybe. And no one knows when Librarians the next chapter is coming.
Feels a
I'm
bit
not
like
even
an
sure what they're
elusive one,
filming.
doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, because there hasn't even been casting announcements for it either. I don't know if this is going to be one of those ones where, they film it and then we find out who's going to be in
Mm.
it and when it drops. But going back to All American Homecoming, we do know that Martin Bob Semple has been up to series regular. He plays Lando on the show, which has people speculating that maybe Simone chooses Lando instead of Damon. Damon's played by Peyton Alex Smith. That actor won't be a series regular in the third season, so they might have given away the bag in terms of
Mm.
their opener, or might not have. I mean, it really just depends what they plan to do with Damon as a character. Because I I don't have a dog in this fight. I did when I was current on the show, but since I'm not, I don't really know where they plan on going, like what direction they plan on going with season three. I do know this kind of took, I feel like delaying it like this though is kind of taking the wind out of the sails.
Yeah.
It's just one of those choices that just feels we could have just put it with its parent show so that you can just be excited about the All American universe coming back. Because they're spread apart, though, the showrunner, she did say that they likely won't have crossovers in a traditional sense. Like the
Mm.
plots will cross over because the characters are still in each other's lives. That doesn't necessarily mean that you'll see them popping up. You might, but I mean, I think it just really just depends on where All American lands and where All American Homecoming is going.
I guess maybe one potential bonus of it not airing with All American is that it might be in the 8 p.m. slot, which we know always gets higher viewing figures than the 9 p.m. slot. Show's never benefited from that before, so maybe it'll get a bit of a rub for being in the earlier slot. But maybe it will give it a chance to build up its own identity in the summer season if the other one won't be on. It's just like I agreed with, though, it does kind of sound like a wee bit of a risk, especially since it's one of the now three remaining original shows left.
So I guess in some ways, since it is built around tennis and baseball, which I think take place in the spring to the summer, sports people, correct me if I'm wrong, um, that it works out since those are the sports featured
Mm.
in the show, and we had been talking about that before. Um, it just feels like a weird choice.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. But speaking of, it's not that this choice is weird, it's just the choice that we did not want. Superman Lois is also being held, but it's being held for the fall, not the summer. Um, y'all know I had a meltdown yesterday over it. I was like not calm. And it's just because it just feels like at that point, how long have we been waiting for the show? A year?
It'll be over a year. Won't it? It ended in the summer, I think, last year. My dates are all messed up. It ended in the summer last year, so it will be over a year before it returns. Um, yeah, this is by far my least favorite news from yesterday. Um, but like, I feel like when they announced that it would be coming later in the year, there was an unspoken rumor that at the very latest it could be the fall. So I did kind of keep my mind open to that possibility. And what is interesting about this is I do wonder if this maybe played into the reason of why it didn't get that fifth season that everyone thought it would, because its budget was slashed and dashed to within an inch of its life, and yet it's didn't make it past the fourth season, even though we said there's an option to the fifth season that James Gunn would have liked it to go on to a fifth season. It is now airing in the season that the fifth season would have aired on. Maybe that's why it won't get that fifth season. Who knows? Um, I mean, like, I will say that what does excite me is it sounds like they're treating it a bit like an event series and that they're going to throw their all into promoting it because they think it can hold up. Or Brad Schwartz said he thinks it can hold up with network any other shows on network TV. And that is very much true. Honestly, the production values of the show are of higher standard than typical network TV, almost cinematic. So I love it. If they're going to throw everything they have into giving it the final season it deserves, I'm all for that. I hope it gets the love and promotion because honestly, as good as the new CW's regime has been with hits like Wildcard, we know Superman Lois is going to get higher viewing figures. So it deserves to be treated like the big main event show that it is. So if it means it gets to go out, it's worth it. I won't agree with that until the fall arrives, though, because I don't want to wait that long. But yeah, in the long run, it's probably worth it.
I think speaking as, I guess, someone who understands TV, other than as a fan, it does make sense to give it a long runway in terms of promo. If it gets the type of promo that Wildcards has been getting, and they even started earlier, like they use a model like the CBS did, where we were hearing about Tracker from months ahead
Mm.
of when it premiered. Then fine if we build up anticipation. If we don't, like if we fall asleep at the wheel and we're not like getting Superman and Lois like new content in terms of promo and everything until like tail end of summer, that's gonna be a little aggravating. Um and I don't know if because they're holding it, that means that we could see maybe Superman and Lois return to Comic-Con
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah. Like the
so that
old
they can
days.
promote it. Yeah, it'd be its last Comic-Con. And since the other shows didn't really get to do that because of COVID, and then just different logistical issues too, it'd be nice to
It would.
see do its last hurrah at Comic-Con. Actually, have
Yeah,
they never been?
I was just about to ask that. I don't think they ever got the chance to go. Um, which is a shame because obviously if the pandemic and all never happened, the original CW, of course, would have had them at Comic Con. I think Tyler was at Comic Con the year he joined Supergirl, but no, I don't think they've ever been at Comic Con to promote Superman Lois. That would be awesome. And also another bonus potentially of it being on or when the show's long stopped filming is that maybe we'll get the cast on TV shows or talk shows to promote it. That would be nice to say. We saw how successful it can be with like wild cards. Um, for a show about one of the most famous superheroes of all time, Superman and Lois is not as visible as it should be. Hopefully, this will give them a chance to make it a bit more visible, especially if the cast isn't in Vancouver filming the show when it airs.
Fingers crossed.
I have reservations and thoughts, but I feel like I should keep them to myself.
Ooh, we'll
I
ask
don't
you
fully
off
trust
pod.
them. Yeah, I'll keep it optimistic with your thoughts, and I'll keep
Sure.
mine in my brain.
Ooh, okay. We're gonna pick your brain after the
Oh
podcast,
yeah.
though. But no, in terms of visibility, it'll be interesting. I mean, just to manifest real quick, a digital cover for Entertainment Weekly, a retrospective. I don't know, I guess geared headed by why is this man's name escaping me? James Gunn.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and just things. I mean, there's time now that they'll have wrapped the series. It's going to be in the vault and waiting out into the fall. There are so many things you can do in that interim to promote the show and also get us excited as fans. Please don't fall asleep at the wheel.
Hope not. You know what's really ironic about the fact that the whole show is going to be filmed is that we have wanted this since Superman and Lois started because no show has been as hampered by hiatuses as this show has been. And now we're probably going to get an uninterrupted run of 10 episodes, maybe a break here and a break there, but there'll be no 10-week break, 6-week break, 5-week breaks anymore. And it took us to the fourth and final season to get there. But you know what, folks? We made it.
Yes. Oh, and we do have one cast update though. So it does look like Sophia Hasemick will be in season four. She's not confirmed yet, but she was on the red carpet for the Saturn Awards.
Yes, yes.
And
And I
talking about the
believe
season.
yeah, I believe she did an interview with Screen Rant, and she did hype up the season as in we're all really excited. I can't wait for you to see it. Very much speaking like a current cast member of the show. So yeah, I do think we will see Chrissy at some point, and we do know that with everything going on with her and Kyle and the baby and their marriage, I assume that we will. It wouldn't make sense not to at least see her in at least one episode. So Yeah, I mean, we've had our issues with Chrissy. She's been one of the characters that's had the most ups and downs on the show. But I mean, like, it wouldn't be right to let the show by idle without at least hearing what she's up to. So I hope we get to hear it from her and not from another character.
Yes. But that wraps up the news that we are familiar with. Now on to news we're not quite, we're on the fence about, but there is a show coming in 2025 that is an in-house project for the CW called Sherlock and Daughter. Not a fan of the title. But so Sherlock will be played by David Thewlis, and apparently this is going to be obviously a mystery thriller. According to the description, it puts Holmes out of his comfort zone, and he's mysteriously unable to investigate a sinister case without risking the lives of his closest friends. Enter young American Amelia, played by an actress by the name of Blue Hunt. After her mother's mysterious murder, she learns her missing father may be the legendary detective. Despite wildly different backgrounds and attitudes, the pair must work together to solve a global conspiracy, crack her mother's murder, and find out for sure if she really is Sherlock's daughter.
Well, that sounds fun. Um, I have to say the title does give I don't know why to me. Or late WB kind of show era. I don't know why. Maybe just the Birds of Prey kind of era Tarzan. It feels like a show that would have been on air during that period. It's just very basic of a title. Um, I don't know what to make of the show, but at the same time, this sounds like a show that the CW that we knew would have greenlit. So at the very least, I'm happy for that reason alone. Maybe I'll check it out because the Nancy Drew fan in me wants to see some more detective mysteries on the CW. Who knows? But this isn't the worst news.
How
Mm,
old is the daughter?
unclear, just says young American.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like young child, young teenager, young adult,
Mhm.
because I think that will really depend, that will change my interest level.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the actress right now. Oh, no. It's gonna give young adult. Like she was born in 1995.
Oh,
Blue
okay, so
was.
she's 28.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's more interesting to me, I think.
And I'm based on this description, I'm assuming we're doing period piece because I don't know why we'd be trying to figure it out in 2025 because they can just go get a paternity test.
It's true.
Mm. 1800s, here we come. Kidding, kidding.
I mean, it is interesting though to be doing a period piece. But I'm assuming, trying to think of the schedule as we know it. This will be their first period piece since Walker Independence in
Yes.
the Winchesters. Good luck to them on that journey.
Cool.
Hmm. But besides Sherlock and Daughter, which is coming in 2025, we're not sure when these game shows are coming, probably at the end of the year, but Trivial Pursuit and Scrabble have been picked up by the network. I mean, I guess we needed to add game shows to the lineup.
What's Trivial Pursuit about? I've never played that game.
Don't take me lying, I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like it's like right there. I want to say it is trivia that is based on different topics, and entertainment is one of them.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know how to play the game.
Well, I feel like we're getting closer to those random game show ideas we came up with when we played that game.
Mm.
Do you
Mm.
remember? Was the one that we ended up picking like an edible arrangement
Yeah.
competition
Yeah,
Yeah.
series hosted by KJ Appa?
Yeah.
yeah,
So close.
I know, but no cigar. I mean, I guess I'll turn into Scrabble. I might if it's trivia. I love trivia. Trivial Pursuit is about. You know what? Let me just Google. And instead of just sitting on the pod not knowing. Um,
Yeah, I've never played it.
okay, so yes, it's a board game where a player's ability to answer trivia and pop culture questions determines whether or not they'll be able to win. So, I mean, that does sound fun, actually. I mean, I love trivia. Some of the categories are like history and science and nature as well. So I don't know what type of Trivial Pursuit they do. I don't know if it's going to be like their version of like an odd Jeopardy style version of the game, where like
Hmm.
there's a theme night and then you have the different categories you can pick from, but they'll all be shipped around that theme.
Again, though, I feel like I know they haven't announced hosts, but I feel like They should have some other stars do it.
Mhm.
That would make it infinitely more interesting to me.
Like
Yes.
Vanessa Morgan would be probably so much fun
Yeah.
Hmm.
if she
That's
wanted
true.
to. Again, I don't want to project dreams onto somebody else, but I think she'd be a good host.
I think they should also like reach maybe even into the WB vault if they can.
Hmm.
To like since we are trying to broaden and attract people who have been watching CW and previously watched the WB uh back to the nest, that would be a way to do it as well.
Mm.
But I have to admit it's giving me whiplash in terms of what we're trying to like figure out. Like I know, so during the TCA, Brad did say they're in the when you're in the broadcast business, you're going after the largest audience possible. So they have to do a lot of things. They don't want to be a very specific brand. They want to be a big tent brand because the CW had been more niche before.
Mhm.
And like there was in young adult focused, but he was saying like, what is NBC's brand? What is CBS's brand? What is ABC's brand? What is Fox's brand? And I was like, reading the quote, I was like, true, but you kind of do know their brands though.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Like, even if it's not specific to a genre of television, you know the difference between a Fox show and a CBS show and an ABC show versus an NBC show. Like, it's very clear. And I feel like for CW, we could start losing its clearness in terms of what sets it apart if we can't find a specific enough lane.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of sense in what Brad is saying in that the new CW can't spend the money on the shows that the old CW was, so we have to write them off instantly. We're not going to have any more superhero shows. We're not going to have as many supernatural fantasy dramas. But at the same time, isn't this the same network that just recently said when they published their logo that the old CW didn't have a strong enough brand and they're here to create one? So it's just sounding a little bit contradictory to me right now. Um, but I do think there is truth in what he's saying, and that people are watching less TV now. The stuff that the old CW made is not as successful anymore. I mean, at least on network TV, it's very successful on streaming and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, it's all about finding a balance. I think if you run the risk of losing the original CW's identity too much, what have you got? You've just a whole
Mm.
lot of experimental stuff that not as many people that should be are watching. Whereas at least that could be explained away with the old CW and that their niche audience is watching. Without the niche audience, what have you got?
I know. And I feel like that is the niche audience. The niche audience is watching Wild Cards.
Hmm.
I do think for Sullivan's Crossing, it was a mix of niche and then people who just wanted to see Chad Michael Murray on television again, and that worked in their favor. Um, I just don't. We're no longer daring to defy. So, like, I do want to know what we are doing besides broadening, because that's not really a brand. That's just opening doors. But like, because the CW wasn't like the other networks, that is what set it apart. So trying
Hmm.
to align with the other ones means that it's kind of giving, in some ways, off-brand versions of shows that they already have that aren't necessarily working. Like we don't know, what Police 24/7 or Hostage Rescue are going to do, but it's not FBI True, which lived on Paramount Plus but did air during during the strikes to fill out the schedule. It's not 2020, it's not 60 Minutes. And yes, it's not necessarily fair to compare those shows in Crime Nation. I get that. But it just seems the shows that they're delivering in the unscripted area for that type of content, that style of true crime content, is not giving gravitas when you see it.
Hmm.
What is, though the titles of the unscripted stuff they have, like the true crime stuff and even Trivial Pursuit and Scrabble, they're the kind of titles that when somebody's flipping through their guide on their TV looking for something to watch, it doesn't matter what the logo is. If you see Trivial Pursuit, you might be more inclined to be like, what is Trivial Pursuit? And click on it and watch it. So in that sense, I get that these titles are kind of intriguing in that they're so basic. I don't mean that as a drag. I mean that as
Hmm.
like if some per, like average consumers flipping through and they say police 24/7 or hostage rescue, they might be more inclined to like click on that than like um clicking on, and again, this is no shade, but like that showed the floor. If you're
Mm,
just clicking through and you just see the floor, you might not be as interested to click on it unless you already know that like, oh, it's a show that Rob Lowe is hosting and I like Rob Lowe and I'm going to watch this show. And
Hmm.
I know I shouldn't compare true crime and whatever that show is, the game show,
it's a game
competition,
show.
I don't know. But I can kind of see the angle that they're playing at with these unscripted titles. I don't know. I feel like all of this talk about branding is so premature. It's like, I don't know, why are we talking about a brand when you're just starting it now? I don't know. I just think you have to be really careful. And I know it's like probably questions he's fielding and his answers are fine. But I don't know. I don't know. It just seems so premature to try to define a brand or ruminate on what it could be because you're still figuring that out.
Mm.
You're still throwing the spaghetti at the refrigerator door.
Thing about the branding though, like when thinking about the other networks, does Hostage Rescue and Crime Nation and what is the other one? Police 24/7. The audience, the people who tune into that, would they watch the rest of the schedule? Because like for CBS, like yeah, the people who watch 60 Minutes will watch the rest of the schedule because they're predominantly procedural. Like you
Hmm.
have NCS Mondays, you have FBI Tuesdays. Then on Fridays, even though SWAT and Blue Bloods will be ending this year, you also have Fire Country, which for the firefighters. Like those who watch 60 Minutes will tune into the programming through the week. They might even try some of the comedies, you know? Um,
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of targets the same demo if you really look at it on paper.
mhm. But
But
I
I think
don't,
that's what a brand is. It's not,
Hmm.
yes.
we have to, well, first we have to define brand. Is it the visual marketing, like the logo and the colors, or is it the content? And I think that's kind of where they're at right now.
Mhm.
Because you can say like your brand has been a little bit more unified just based on the visual tools. But if you look at the schedule on paper, it's a lot more broad and all over the place than the old CW used to be because CW was kind of like all over the place constantly. But like if you like whittle it down, it was all it was broad in a way that made sense because it was targeting a very similar demographic.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought after that.
No, I mean, excellent point. Because I think that looking at this, like even looking at the April schedule, there's not going to be a lot of crossover
Yeah, you
of
got true crime,
audiences.
you got reality dating, you've got Walker, you got All American. It all kind of it's like it's giving like a cable network. It's giving MTV a little bit. I mean, their approaches have always been all over the place. They've had a brand, but their original content has just been like true life, teen mom, high school drama comedy, scripted. It's like so random.
I don't know. Um, Kind of disappointed, actually. But I think that like that's one of the things. Like I know we're in like the growing pains situation when it comes to CW as they figure out, how they want to move forward. And they've been open about what hasn't worked. Like Brad was talking about, it was probably too ambitious to try to do a must-watch block of comedy,
Hmm.
even
Yeah,
with
too
the shows that
much
they had.
too soon.
Hmm.
But I also think like asking like what the other networks brands are. I don't think a brand can be defined by like a single word. It's complex.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's also vibe based, if you ask me.
Yes, and they all have a vibe. CW's
Hmm.
vibe is really messed up right now.
Yeah,
It's
and
both
that's
like
what's
chaotic.
frustrating. Yeah, that's what's
Hmm.
frustrating because the original one was so strong. Um, And then Brad did make a comment about how I believe they have the seasons of the Connors that they can use if they need. And like there's another example. How do you build a brand using the same show that was on one of those other brands that you're trying to compete with? How does
And
that
that
line
show
up?
just got sold into syndication, I read somewhere. So
Hmm.
they're running out of
Yeah.
time for the exclusivity.
So yeah, you know what I mean? Like I think that's a good word to use. What's exclusive about the CW other than the fact that they're doing a great job with these Canadian procedurals? I think that's a great job because I've come across a lot of shows like that and flicked them on and thought, why didn't I hear about this show before? So the fact that they're being broadcast on US TV is kind of awesome. But like, what do we have beyond that? We've made the comments about how they're bringing in like blue sky dramas, and there's been the comparisons to USA Network, but they're also doing other things that's more comparable to network TV. So it's like, it just feels like a little bit of everything everywhere all at once right now. And like, what do you do with that? How do you siphon that off into an identity, into a brand? I mean, I'm sure that's the long game. They're going to figure it out, and that a lot of the experiments they're trying are not going to survive. We've already seen it with one or two shows so far, but it's still for being the big TV season schedule we've all been waiting for. It still feels like it lacks a specific flavor of identity. And again, that's what the CW was always known for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now as longtime viewers, though, there comes a well, speaking from the eye perspective, there's a feeling for me where I want to be in love with what's on the lineup like I was before 2022 happened,
Yeah.
and I just not getting that feeling. Wild Cards gives me that feeling. I really watch Ride though, like unless they greenlight it for a season two, there's not much you can go, in that
Hmm.
direction because it got canceled by Hallmark. If CW doesn't pick it up, it's kind of just done. So like it's just enjoying a rerun of it. And most of the things that they're announcing is like, okay, like it's
Hmm.
just like I'm probably gonna enjoy Joan. Like I might enjoy the librarian's next chapter. But the thing about the other networks, for me, particularly CBS, is that when they talk about what's coming or what they have in development, it's exciting, right?
Hmm.
Um, I've not been excited necessarily for the CW outside of, the return of actors that I've enjoyed. I want
Sure.
to be excited again.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I don't want to sound too pessimistic as I was a couple minutes ago, but I do think they're making a lot of really smart moves. I think they're going in the right direction. It just does feel like we're thrifting right now, and it's
Hmm.
going to take a minute to until we get to retail, to
Yeah.
extend that metaphor.
I do think, though, I guess to end on a positive note, there is a lot of growth here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might not be growth we're necessarily excited about, but there's an option for content in a way that was not there previously. Like obviously they are trying to find their sea legs. They're trying to see what works and what doesn't. And with that comes experimentation and it comes failing and then the occasional win, like wild cards.
Hmm. And I
Um,
mean, like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we were, I think, really fearful of what it would look like in the future. Now that we're in it, it's not as bad as I think any of us were expecting.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. I feel like like Sabrina said, and we're in a much better place than this time last year. Like, I think growth's a good word for that. Um, I think if we give them a chance, they might surprise us. They have with Wildcard so far. So if we have any more content like that, I'd be very much excited. It's just about waiting and seeing how it all pans out.
Yes. Fingers crossed. It only up from here.
Hmm.
Only up. But going into our reviews for this pod episode, starting with Ride, uh, Reed, I wanted to pick your brain because it's a tough episode.
I
Like
love him.
it's really just about him. How did you feel about his role in this episode?
I I love him. Okay, when I see it on the outline that he's Isabel's favorite, because when he said that as a joke and she was like, "You're all my favorite," I was kind of like, "Are you her favorite?" Actually, I was questioning it more than I think anybody else was, because I'm like, she really puts a lot on him. Um, that isn't it, like I feel like it's in the subtext that like I can recognize how much is on his shoulders, and I'm like, I don't know, it's giving Cash as the favorite
Mm.
subconsciously. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just really love him. He looked so cute.
All episode.
That's that's not very deep. That's not a deep thought. It was just a thought that I had throughout the episode.
To me, he is Isabel's favorite, and I think, though she does put a lot on him, he's the one she doesn't have to be in fear of because
Mm,
he's the one who would stay. By the time we got to the episode, at the end of the episode, I was like, Tough better be the one who inherits the ranch. Like it better
yeah,
be his name on the will because he's the only one who can do it. I mean, not that he couldn't, have his siblings there, but like it just he is the one who is the protector of the family. Now, I didn't agree with Julian when Julian was like, you should probably calm down and just let what's going on with Valyria happen with Valyria. And I was like, no, let Tough be the protector. There always has to be one in the family, and it's him.
Yeah.
And
mhm.
so I think
Um,
that's good.
I said last week that Julian is basically a sounding board, and this week I so totally agree that Julian is just a sounding board. There is no purpose for that character. He is there to serve the plot with Valeria. And that's all we keep getting every time the two of them have a scene together. I'm like, are we going to have like a meaningful conversation here? It gets like two beats in, and then suddenly it pivots back to Valeria. Um, I find that very frustrating. Um, because you're right, Sabrina. Oh, he's kind of there like playing devil advocate. Well, if you give Valeria a bit, maybe she'll surprise you, and then Tough has to go off and do the opposite because that's what the plot dictates. Um, I would like more for them as a partnership. I would like more for Julian, other than like lines that service the plot with Valeria. And I feel like him meeting Isabel would have carried far more gravity if we actually were set up to care about that relationship.
Yeah,
But it's not giving us anything other than that. This was the most Julian's been on screen so far, and like 95% of his dialogue had to do with Valeria, so much so that he was like, I've heard a lot about you when they first met each other. And I'm like, is this the best we can do with that relationship? Tough deserves better.
yeah. I'm not invested.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I'm invested in Tough, but not that relationship,
No, but
unfortunately.
it is the only means for Tough to be able to have conversations outside of his family. Because can't talk to Cash about Valyria. Cash is very much Team Valyria. Him and Missy don't really seem to have a relationship. When he's talking with Isabel, he is concentrated on his mom. Like
Mm.
that's really where he has his focus whenever he's talking to her. So then it just leaves Julian, who we don't know much about. We just learned that he is a Bronco rider, so he's a horse rider. And it seems like he doesn't have that great of a relationship with his family, which is why he wants Tough to kind of chill because he's like, you have like this great family and you all love one another and I mean, you've even doing this party for your mom and you are so concentrated on Valeria that you aren't focusing on the good. Which I was like, I get it, Julian, but Valeria is acting suspect. So I mean, I don't I don't blame Tough for wanting to investigate, especially when you find all of those fake IDs.
Okay, but wait, I need to ask for clarity. Um, so Valeria's whole thing was that she got into debt with that sketchy guy.
Hmm.
Was it from playing pool?
I honestly can't remember if she's lying or not, but
See, that's
she,
what I was like,
yeah.
when that whole reveal happened at the party, I was like, it was at the party, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, my instinct is to not believe her because one, it's episode 4, and two, like I've watched soaps before, and like the first reveal is never like the final
Yeah.
situation. But I'm like, is that the kind of show that would do this? Because I would totally believe that, no shade, that ride would just be like, yeah, yeah, a girl was playing pool, lost a lot of money, and was just like on the run with fake IDs, trying to get the money to pay this guy back, and that was it. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to follow my instinct that she's lying and be disappointed when it is just a girl had a few bad pool games.
Yeah. I don't believe her either. Was there not some situation in the pilot episode when Austin needed her help, and that's how she's ended up in the situation? I could be wrong, but
Did she inherit his debt, maybe?
that's what I was thinking. Is it something to
But why
do
would
with
she take
that?
the bullet for him?
Not to maybe not to desecrate his memory since no one seems to know this was going on.
But
Um,
are we gonna find out he was like she's in love with him or something?
I don't know. I hope not.
Why did
Valeria.
everybody, no, not to hate on the dead, but why was everybody so obsessed with Austin?
Oh man. I mean, like, I could see it there being more to it than that. I obviously we know there's more to it than that because we got the flashback at the end, but about one of the fake IDs and the name used in it. But yeah, I didn't really like. I've struggled with the whole Valeria secrecy storyline. And to take it back to Julian, he is defending someone who he had never met up until this stage, and that's why that storyline doesn't work for me. If your other half was telling you how this person was annoying you, they're being shady, they're being secretive, that other person would be like, well, of course, I believe you. Why would they take the side of someone they've never met if they don't have the whole story? Then we have randomly we have the Ranchan still being mean to Valeria for no reason whatsoever. I'm still waiting on that moment where she proves herself and she's done it already. No one seems to see her any differently. I feel like the storyline is constantly manipulating us to feel sorry for Valeria, and we do in those moments. But yet then we find out she's keeping more secrets, more secrets, more secrets, which means Tough is justified in his died off her. So I don't know where my allegiances are supposed to fall, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Mine are with Tough.
I don't blame you for
No, I don't
that.
either. I think uh, I do want to say that this will continue to come up. And not necessarily, I don't remember if keeps coming up with Tough, but as far as Valeria, we're not done with this story. The way that they tease that is that, you know, believe they're under the impression she doesn't have a mom, and she definitely did.
hmm
Uh, and that she grew up in wealth, which they don't know about.
Oh,
Hence
that's
why
right. The
she reacted so
flashbacks.
for that young
Mm.
girl. That's why she reacted the way she did because she actually does come from money.
How long was that girl missing?
2 hours.
Because they were like flipping out.
I think it's because it's just so much land, and they don't show it in this show, but they would have other animals around that aren't their own. Like there's probably wild animals running around in the deeper parts of the range, which is why they wanted to find her quickly.
hmm
Mm.
Maybe it's just paranoid person in me, but as soon as they handed her that carrot, it was like go over and feed the horses or whatever. I think you're going to let that child go off on
Yeah,
her
no
own.
one watched her.
No one, yeah. Well, it's what's her name? Is it Sophie? Is it?
I think it's
The
Sophie.
child?
Why are we
Hmm.
letting all these Sophies go missing on the CW? We got we got to stop this and protect the Sophies. But like, yeah, it's not that I'm not invested in the Missy and Gus storyline, but I was like, for goodness sake, watch the child.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wait, why was the episode called Estella?
That's one of the names on Valeria's IDs, and
Oh
Oh,
yes.
that's her name actually. Because
Oh.
the maid in the flashback says Miss Estella. That's her.
oh, see, I missed that.
Hmm. I thought it was a good, cedar for to know that Valeria has more secrets. That it's not just what Tough had found. Like she's actually been lying for a very long time. Uh, it was a slower episode until that point, which I didn't necessarily mind. I don't know what it is about westerns and animals that are about to give birth, but and it's always the mom who has an emotional story wrapped around the animal giving birth. Because watching this episode reminded me of The Way Home, where Dell, the cow, was having a child, a calf, and it's like bringing up a lot of old things from the past for her. And so in this episode, Isabel is struggling with the foal. And she wants to be there because she wants to make sure the child's okay. It's like, oh, the projection. They didn't talk about it in the episode. It's like, are you worried about your baby? So you want to make
Mhm.
sure that the horse's baby is fine.
I thought they could have delved into that a bit more. It kind of got lost the moment the child went missing. I think I'm just going to call Sophie now because I'm pretty sure that was her name. I think that it was just dropped because then as soon as we caught back, it wasn't the full born then, and all
Hmm.
was fine. I feel like we could have delved into Isabel a bit more. It feels like she's reacting to an awful lot that's happening around her, and I would like just her to be involved in the story a bit more. But it was nice to see the focus. I did really enjoy the conversation between her and Toph. I do really like the relationship because ever since the show's kind of started, she's been kind of caught up in the stress of everything that Cash is doing. So it was so nice to see a different perspective just on how she is as a mother, and you got to see Tough be with her. And then, of course, everyone like rallied around her in the end. So that was nice. But I'm really, really growing attached to Isabel, and I just would like to see her get more focus going forward.
Mm-hmm. It's necessary, I think, outside of her children, just like her as a person,
Hmm.
what's going on. We also met another mom. We met Missy's mom. Um, does not have a good relationship with Missy whatsoever. And it
I
all
didn't
seems
like her.
no, there's bitterness there, like a lot of
Definitely.
bitterness. And I do think, I mean, projecting your past romantic issues onto your daughter wasn't cool. And then it's clear that she has resentment towards the McMurrays because she feels like they took Missy from her, even though it's clear Missy didn't want to be a pageant queen anyway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just don't feel sorry for her. We see these kinds of parents in TV a lot, and I'm just like, if she left, it's like not all on her. Like if she's spending more time with the family, it's because they're making her feel safer than you did, and that's not on you. That's not on them or her. Like, let's look in the mirror.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just the second she was on screen, I was like, this is gonna be a whole thing.
And and I didn't like that she turned up to Isabel's party and still kind of made it about her. Like at the end of the day, this was the first time she'd seen Isabel since Isabel was grieving her son. And I was like, oh, it's been a while since I've seen you, a long time no say. And she kind of put the blame on Isabel for that. And Isabel was like, you could have called around any time. And then she was like, basically saying how Missy chose her, and it's always been a competition, and it's easy to say it's not a competition when you're the one that's on the winning side. I was like, this woman lost her son a year ago, and it's her birthday party that you turned up to. Like, give her a break, for goodness sake. And then I felt the second conversation with Missy was a little bit rushed because it kind of ended awkwardly, and then they were like, "Give me a hug," and kind of ended all cheery. And I was like, "Why did we skip over all this years of trauma? They could have done a bit more with that, I guess, but they just had to move on for the plot." But yeah, no, I didn't get good vibes from that woman either.
It felt kind of like Missy was just like, "Ugh, whatever. I'd rather just like end this
Hmm.
on good terms than prolong it, which I get.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I got her mom in terms of when she walked into the party wasn't a great moment for
Hmm.
her.
Yeah, yeah.
To hear
What
your
she
daughter
heard.
say that another woman made a home for her. Uh, but like you had said, Reed, she does have to look in the mirror. What is it about y'all's relationship that has caused so much friction? And not all of it, obviously, it's a two-way street, but at the same time, what it is about you that have things not worked out here. I think a lot of it has to do with her resentment towards the rodeo stuff. Like
Hmm.
she didn't follow the plan you wanted for her life, and because she didn't do that, you guys don't have a good relationship because you can't accept she didn't want it. There's this great line in their talk, which is rushed, in which she says, "I gave you everything but the one thing." And that's the thing that she can't seem to navigate past. They can't. And I was like, well, Missy's right though. It can't be I gave you everything you wanted but the one thing. And because I didn't give you the one thing, now I'm the villain. It's like, kinda. Because the
Hmm.
one thing is accepting what she wanted to do.
Yeah. And I love that line from Missy when she said that you can't love 99% of me, you have to love all of me. I thought that was really, really great line.
She was like, I do
Um,
love all of you. And it's like,
I was
girl,
like, where is the evidence?
get out of
Um,
here.
um, and then that line at the start, I know what y'all mean when you said you didn't get good vibes from her right away. Like the fact that Missy tried to have that conversation. We are not the Austin fan club. The three of us have had issues with Austin since the very beginning, and that poor man has been on screen all of 5 minutes. But we are not the Austin fan club. And yet this woman said to her daughter, she compared it to her dad leaving, and then said, yeah, and Missy was like, well, Austin died is a different situation. Yes, well, they're both gone though. It's like it's not the same situation. You can't compare
Yeah,
that. You
girl,
should
get
not
out of
say
here.
Yeah.
awful, awful a thing to say.
Get
And
out
he
of here
didn't
with
break her
that.
heart. He
Exactly.
died, like her heart was broken because he passed, but he didn't, like that's something that was out of his control. Um, but I think Missy's mom is right about one thing, which is that Missy does have to find an identity outside
Hmm.
of the McMurray family. Like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and she doesn't have one right now. She's been trying to, but she was right. She's like, okay, so you're helping Cash now. Like that's what we're doing. I was like, okay, fair point, mom. She
Hmm.
doesn't have an idea. Hence why now in this episode, she's like, you know what? Maybe I will try to see what's going on with Gus. I was like, I think she meant professionally too, dear, not just romantically.
Yeah, it definitely feels like everything that went on in this episode forced her to make that decision. Um, which I guess, brings us to the whole Cash and Valeria situation. Um, I
I
said
don't
on the,
like it. I'm sorry.
oh, I
I
know.
don't mean to step on your toes on that one. I just have to get that out.
Yeah, no, no. All you're doing is agreeing because I said on the pod last week that I really liked their friendship because it just gives the idea of dudes having a good time, just chill, fun relationship. I said another show might have taken that a little bit further and turned it into an actual relationship. Silly old me was naive enough to think that this would not happen on a television show, but unfortunately, it looks like we're heading in that direction. And it kind of does feel like it happened overnight. Because, for example, when Missy was having the conversation with Valeria about moms, uh, Valeria was like, she thinks you're with Cash as though she didn't know. I feel like that's been implied before that Valeria does know there's a thing between her and Cash. So why did Valeria think all of a sudden like, you're not with Cash, are you? So where did this come from? We've only known you for 4 episodes and you already knew this information. And then at the end, Missy turned around and just happened to see Cash and Valeria walking out from the side of the barn. It was like, actually, Gus. So I was like, why is all this like? It's really, really supposed to be subtle, and yet all of a sudden it smacked us in the face. Don't like it. Don't know where it's going. Why is Cash just all of a sudden stopped looking at Missy like he's not in love with her? Where did all this happen? What happened?
Yeah, yeah, just like they decided and it came out of nowhere. I'm not
Yeah.
really invested in it.
It's gonna get
Whatever, have fun.
messy.
See, I thought they were gonna get in trouble when they were doing donuts in that field because I was like, you're
Mm.
ruining this field for what?
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna
Mm-mm.
get in trouble from like Tough. I thought Tough was gonna blow a gasket. He didn't, right? No, they didn't. It
Mm-mm.
No,
was
they
never
never
even
told.
addressed. I was like, why are you ruining this field? Seems like a bad thing
Questions.
to do on a ranch, but have fun.
It's gonna get messy in future episode.
I love that.
Um, and two future
He's gonna
episodes.
defend her because that's just the kind of guy he is. It's
Yeah.
gonna, I can
Mm.
just see it.
I can't remember. I'm sorry that my mind is a blank when it comes to this. The vibe that I got for Ride when I watched Hallmark was I enjoyed this immensely, and that's all I remember. Every time we watch an episode, I'm like, oh yes, that did happen. Right, one of my original feelings. Um, but as far as these two go, I found that pigeonholed into this episode rather than gradually coming in. I don't know if this was because, with a short order of episodes, I think it's 10.
Mhm.
You can only do but so much. So I wish it was seated better in the earlier episodes because you do just end up getting not them acting necessarily brand new, but for two people, it'd be different if Valeria was a ranch hand that they had met the year prior and had known for a few months. But they've known each other since they were, and I believe this is said in show, 16 years old. They are now 7 years past that. So the idea that they don't have any weird feelings about suddenly developing feelings is just threw me this episode. Because I'm like, why y'all acting like you met like a month ago and
Mm.
you've been
Yeah,
vibing? Like you've known each other
interesting.
for years. So I feel like you should act like you've known each other for years and but are starting to develop feelings. That's a different vibe than I kind of don't really know you that well, but we seem to have an attraction.
Yeah, this seems like a season two kind of
Mm.
pairing.
Mm.
Like, I don't know, we've seen certain shows where like past season one, you see certain characters getting closer and it gradually builds to a potential relationship. I could have seen that happening, but like it's just so soon. I don't know.
Yeah, I've you could see it in a season two or like later in the season. And having it in the fourth episode is an interesting choice, considering all that they had to do with Valeria in this episode. I mean, you learned a lot about her.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's not necessary. I was waiting to get to this part just to hear y'all's thoughts on it because I remember when I saw it, I was like, do we need to go? I feel like we don't. I feel like it didn't
Yeah,
need to happen.
there's enough going on.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, I like the comparison that it could have happened in a later season because that would have made sense. Cash would have had that moment where he would have been like, oh, hold on a minute, this thing with Missy won't work. This never
Yeah.
happened. That never happened. So why are we just suddenly pivoting? And then he does obviously feel a certain kind of way about her spending time with Gus, but he'd already had kind of a moment with Valeria before that. His intention and their intentions together have been pretty clear since the beginning of this episode. and yet in the three leading up to it, it was nowhere to be seen. I just like they had that groovy dance sequence that went on and on last week, and the only reason it went on was so the tough could like lean out the side and watch them. I thought, oh no, don't tell me there's going to be feelings here, and there wasn't. Now apparently there was. Where does it come from? I don't get
It
it.
could have been like interesting, and of course, this is not going to happen in a Hallmark show if like we had found out they had slept together when they were younger and
Hmm.
they kind of just like put it in the past, but like there's a moment where they feel that connection again, but like we're not going to get that backstory from Hallmark.
No,
We're just not going to get that.
no. So we're just here.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're just here with it, and
Riding
that's where it
along,
is.
riding along.
Yes. I don't think there's anything else in this episode, though. I feel like, in some ways, with the exception to the information about Valeria, it kind of feels like a standalone because it does not
Mm.
Mhm.
further the rodeo plot. And then I guess Cass is struggling with with Bullseye,
Hmm.
and Missy has Gus.
Yep. Yep. I mean,
I
I mean,
enjoy watching it. I enjoy the
yeah,
show a lot. Like it's a lot of fun.
yeah. I know we spent a lot of time criticizing the overall plot, but as an episode, I really, really liked it. Very visual episode as well, getting to see more of the ranch and everything. And again, I like the focus on Isabel. I just wish we had more going forward. Yeah, I really liked it.
No, see where I told y'all I enjoyed it because it's low stakes. I just
Yeah,
have
Mhm.
to turn the TV on and enjoy. It's not
yeah.
asking much, just
No,
to pay attention.
and you get it
And
every time.
and
Yes.
tough as baby girl.
That's your quote of the day.
Moving into wild cards though, which is another show, you just feel like you can kick back and relax, but it does have action in it more than Ride does. But I found this episode to be really fun and enjoyable. Can't stand Rachel, but other than that, I
No.
just really enjoyed the episode.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I said last week that I think every episode so far has been my favorite one, and this one might have taken the cake. Because at first I didn't know how I was going to like changing the dynamic up from two to three, but it really did work. And Rachel had her like by the numbers kind of like we're supposed to dislike her kind of character development, and then in the end, oh, maybe Max wasn't so bad after all. But generally, I thought the dynamic between the three of them really worked, and this was even though the episode was based on the relationship between Ellis and Rachel. This was a Max episode because she really shone in this episode.
Did we know that he had been engaged before?
No,
No, I
we
don't
knew
think
she
so.
was an ex
I
Hmm.
because
feel like I don't like when I was watching it, I was like, did I predict this? That he had had like an ex-fiance or something. I feel like I said that somewhere. Maybe it was just my
I
wishful thinking while watching the episode. I was like, did I call this? I feel like I might have said it in like a throwaway thing.
Yeah, I feel like we might have had a conversation about it because we did say after the pilot he was the one we knew the least about. We keep calling him Runyon that we're unpeeling every week, and we knew nothing about him. And maybe that was one of the ideas we threw out as a potential backstory.
I felt so familiar. I was like, did we know this or did we talk about? I couldn't figure it out when I was watching the episode. But yeah, I didn't like her. And I feel like that was the point.
it
So
was.
success.
I think it's also because it's not just, sometimes when you meet the ex in a show, fans get a little territorial, and it's more so about not liking the character because you don't know what's going to happen with your two leads. But in this case, it was more so because Rachel's hypocritical. We're by the
Yeah.
book, but we refuse to call our supervisor to let him know the count is gone. We won't trust Max, even though we don't know her, and I get it. It is because she's a con artist. But at the same time, Miss Ma'am, we are just lying for days in this episode ourselves. So why, like, she's being held to a different standard than you
Hmm.
are?
Yeah, she's holier than thou.
Mm-hmm. And she just up
Didn't
and left this
appreciate
man.
it. Yeah.
That scene in the kitchen, I was like, wait, I know, like, how long did you wait before you decided to leave because he wasn't moving through grief fast enough for you,
And she had the
Yeah.
nerve to be like, so you're still on the boat? And it's like, girl,
right? Like,
what?
wow.
It was giving Miss Thing with the teacup and Nancy Drew.
Yes, it was. It was just so weird. Like, first of all, it's an expensive, boats are expensive. Second of all, it's his brother's boat. I felt like if she had slowed down to ask him about it, the way that Max actually got the backstory behind the boat, she would know why he has the boat. Like,
Hmm.
like, ma'am, how the brother hasn't even been dead. Has it been a year?
I was going to say,
I
I
think that's
think
what
it's
they
been a
said.
year. Yeah. Um, and like grief moves in different ways. And like, fair play to Alice, he's tried to get up and get on with it. Obviously, he's still struggling with it a great deal. But like, to suggest that he's still in the same place, that he's stuck and that he hasn't moved on, I thought was incredibly insensitive because clearly you've argued about this before. Or you should know better than to talk to him like that. I know the episode didn't want to go down that because it wanted to highlight that they've history together, but like, yeah, like give him some chance to give him some room to breathe. Like, clearly, that was the problem the first time around, and she's learned nothing in the year since.
Mm.
And she was just playing with that man.
She
Hmm.
was, and even the the extent she extended the offer for him to come with her to pick up and leave. That as a Ella, she already showed you she's not the one because the idea that you're not only should like move on, but that you should stop talking about it. Why would
Hmm.
he
Yeah, and
stop
just
talking about
like
his brother?
she wanted him to just become the version of him that she wanted, and she thinks that that would happen if he just left.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can fi change your life, and he's like, I like my life,
Hmm.
even though
Hmm.
like I'm in this weird purgatory at work. Like, I don't know, I think it was a lot of growth for him to realize like I don't want this anymore because it hasn't changed.
Yeah. And I liked how they juxtapose it with the storyline going on. Albert, was that his name? The accountant that they were.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I lost track of the case about like
Yeah.
15 minutes in, and I was just running on pure vibes and like the other stories. So like I couldn't describe what happened in the case in this episode.
Um, yeah, no, I say I slowly got on the rails right before the end again, but like I missed so much going on in the middle of it.
They
But
talk
I
so fast in these shows and like
so
say so much
much.
stuff, story like throwaway lines in the dialogue. And I'm like, wait, I'm not smart
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Wait.
And then because they're like still playing with us 5 episodes in about having Max potentially play off both sides, I was like,
Oh, I knew she was
so
up to some
so what
tricks, but
happened here?
that scene with
Hmm.
her in the bedroom with him, I knew once they got to that bridge that she had other
Yeah,
things in play. I wasn't expecting what the reveal. It took me out when I saw the
yeah.
slide under the bridge.
How extra.
I do, but I like, so one of the things I know for some people, stuff like that, they feel like is predictable. And I was like, yeah, but part of that is it's comforting because yeah, she's going to do that, but
But
it's the
how
reveal
is
of
she
how
gonna
she
do
did
it?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Shows like this can go through the motions in a plot sense, but I think there's the reason the show thrives is that it keeps outdoing itself with how extra it gets each week. Sure, the twists come, and we know that. It's what's the twist gonna be, and like I don't think we expected that man to jump off into a slide, roll all the way down, and then make his quick getaway. Like saying it out loud, I feel silly. It sounds so ridiculous, but like in a show like this, it works like a dream.
Yes. And Max is a believer in love because she was like, I'm gonna make this happen for both of you. He got his girl.
He
Like we're
did.
we're off to, I forget what island they're going to, but she's gonna pick up her life and leave and go be
Yeah.
with him. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is so nice.
It is, and that's the perfect full circle moment because that's what I was going to say. I interesting how they juxtapose that with the Alice storyline. Albert and his longtime love interest running off together. Yes, of course, they're technically running away from the mob. They've added that in, but that was always their dream to go off together, to start afresh and live a new life together. That's not the same thing as Miss Rachel trying to get Alice to like up and leave his life and to forget everything that happened to him. She's trying to force him to move on, not deal with the grief, and just press the reset button. So completely different situations there. So off the two of them, I'm glad it was Albert that got his happy ending with his nice love interest. I forget her name. So happy for them. Glad Alice stayed and that Rachel went off. Wouldn't care if
Hmm.
we never saw that woman again.
No, I hope she doesn't return. She could, I don't remember. They just kept saying federal agents. I have no idea if she'd moved stateside to become an FBI agent or not, or if there's a Canadian agency over there that's kind of the same. Um,
Mm.
but no, she can be gone. She can be gone for good. I did like though that because you got to see a past romance with him, you also got to see how fire he and Max are. Like we knew it, but that ending scene, I was like, Rachel, you're not getting the same energy as he's giving Max.
No.
Sorry.
No.
That whole scene in the boat, oh my God, electric.
Right?
Very, yeah.
The chemistry was just like Albert Einstein. Is he even a chemist? Albert Einstein. I don't know. Like
I
it
don't think
was
so.
just like for real, like a full science lab of chemistry.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was, oh, the looks and the lingers. And this is a scene that would have been at home 5 seasons down the line, but heck, it sits perfectly at home 5 episodes down the line. They're toying with us because we know they had the big kiss in the first episode and that they felt a certain kind of way, which you would if someone randomly kissed you. But like at the end of the day, we're only 5 episodes in and we saw the beginnings of this when so many names. Alice and Rachel had their moment again, and Max was off in the corner looking at them, lingering, a little upset almost. And like she was living for their chemistry, she was living for their back and forth and their history and learning all about it. And I
That
think
was
one of
so funny in the back of
it
the car when
was, it
she's just like,
was like the child picking up all the information. But we did say this. I'm pretty sure one of us suggested this a little while ago that there'd be a situation where one of the two of them would get in a situation with another potential love interest, and the other one would be egging them on and they can go for it. Yeah, look at this. This is fun. And then the minute it actually happens, they'd feel a certain kind of way about it and realize, maybe I didn't want that after all. I think Max had that moment, which kind of is what prompted her into like doing the whole like behaving I misbehaving a little bit, playing outside the rules with Albert. But like, and then you build up to that in the end and you see there's so much on the same page. And I think that's why they work so well together. Because she's teaching him not to play by the rules and they're having such a good time about it. He's finally realized that this is his home and he wants it to be his home so that he's not just existing anymore. And that she helped him see that. And my goodness, that scene, yeah, I wasn't expecting that random fifth episode into the show. It's just, oh my goodness, like Reed said, a whole science lab and there's so much chemistry.
but
It's
the thing about
also,
that ending is that it was earned.
yes, it
Very much
was.
so.
Like this whole episode, very subtly. Am I giving it too much credit for saying it's subtle? Because it kind of wasn't. Because like the whole basis of the three of them working together was us seeing how Max was just like, I don't like using this metaphor because I don't want to put two women against each other, but like how she was like consistently winning and proving herself against Rachel. Like she ended up getting the front seat. She got the information from the psychic. Like it just continued to prove how much more compatible she was with Ellis, even from when um she was flabbergasted that Rachel called him Cole. She was like, Cole? What? But then it goes into also like um I my brain just went blank. What was I saying?
You're
As she's
talking.
more compatible with him. Max
Mhm.
is more compatible. She was outdoing Rachel. She got the front seat. Um, and the await
My train of thought just literally stopped. I was building to a another point and it's gone.
had the moment at the end was earned, and that this felt like it, and that it was kind of subtle but not really subtle.
It was moving into, I guess, the other half of it, of the her knowing Ellis better. This
Yeah.
version of Ellis now,
I
better
don't know
than
what
Rachel
point I was gonna
does.
make. You guys go.
Never gone. I was gonna say though, for the ending scene, it is sort of structurally a metaphor as well, because we've been on the surface, literally on this boat, and then she's led down into the heart of it, his heart, where he opens up to her in the bedroom, intimate spot. Like,
Hmm.
and they just do, and he not only shares with her about his brother and feels comfortable doing that because she's a safe space for him, he also apologizes using the words, you know? It's just so
That's what I was
great.
getting to.
That's what you're
That's what
getting
I was getting
to.
to. Yeah, okay. When he is talking to Rachel and like convincing himself, like, oh, it's not this thing with Max. Once this is finished, I'll be done with her and she'll be out of my life. Like he's just saying that because that's what he thinks is the truth. But deep down, he knows that it's more. So he's like guarding himself. Like he doesn't want to want that or something. But I think the entire episode is showing us why he's lying to himself, like, or how he's lying to himself, because that's not the truth. That's there's something deeper there that he's not willing to recognize for whatever reason. But like it's a lot more subtle with Max because she catches them going upstairs and like she notices these things, but it's not like um it doesn't weigh as heavily on her, I think, that the jealousy or anything. Like she just goes with the flow a little bit more. She sees these things, but it's not like, oh crap, my window of opportunity is closing because girl can get a crowbar and pry that window open.
Mhm.
Um, and on that note, I think you're right that it was very clever of an episode to bring in an whole love interest to again tease us with this main storyline in the present because we th I think this episode was we said we know the least about Alice, and I said this is very much a Max episode, but we also learn a heck of a lot about Alice in this episode, and I think that seeing him be more human with Rachel because he's very by the books, very business, very get the job done kind of mentality, and he's had that. The closest we've seen to a real smile has been this kind of like awkward smirk he has it Max throughout the whole series so far because he doesn't know what to make of her. She is literally a wild card in his life, which he's never had to deal with before. Um, Whereas in this episode, you thought seeing him more like stripped back and gentle with Rachel was kind of seeing the real him. But actually, that scene at the end, that's the most we've seen him smile since.
Oh,
He kind of
mega lot.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
He kind of almost like whispered to her when he said, "I'm sorry, I don't know why I said that." It was just so gentle. There was very little to no sarcasm there. None of the weird smirks. Genuine, real smiles. He looks so different when he smiles because you're so used to him being so restrained. There was no restraint there. It was just such a real moment. And I love the fact that Mark interrupted the moment because who knows where that would have led. But like they just find their dynamic again. It wasn't one of those like, oh, sorry, I should have done that. I need to go kind of moments and they run off. They just relocated their dynamic. There's such a great balance between the two of them, such a great dynamic. And I could have watched that scene had it been 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 50 minutes. It was just electric.
Yes, and seated things too. Because so the
Hmm.
end of the episode, she has the mob flash
Yes.
drive, which she can use for anything, which we're not sure what she's going to use it for, but it could be for Ellis. And then Ellis's boat doesn't run, which means at some point it will run, which sets up a plot maybe in a later season where they have to run away together in his boat.
Mhm.
Just saying. I mean, I'm writing fan fiction as we go. And then there was something else. Oh, I don't know, there's something about George that I'm like, hmm. And in terms of how he feels about the situation that she's in with Ellis. If there's anyone who's gonna clock that Max is getting feelings, it's gonna be her dad.
Mhm.
Hmm. He
That
made
room
a
that he was in, sorry, this is
go ahead.
neither here nor there, but it looks like a hospital room.
Yeah, it's
Which
not
Like,
very
room?
why are there
prison.
that many windows in a police holding room?
Oh, mhm.
Yeah.
I
Um,
mean,
I
that's like an unserious criticism. And when I was watching that scene, I was like, this was definitely a hospital set.
yeah, it's giving classroom vibes to me as well, just with all the glass. I don't know why. Um, but what was interesting is that George is his name, yes, Jason Priestley,
Mhm.
yes. Um, he did make a comment a couple of episodes ago about Max to be careful, even though she was clearly having the time of her life. It's like, why would Max need to be careful in the situation if she's the one that's earning her freedom? And now in this episode, he caved quite quickly to give Rachel and Alice the information only when he turned to Max and said, "What do you think?" So he's definitely taken her cues. He's definitely taken her guidance in the situation. He seems like a really good father. But we know from the pilot they're planning something. Is this flash drive going to help them plan that? Because we know in the pilot that they had the most like kind of basic of dialogue, as in like, with whatever happens, we were it's our turn or we're going to do it or whatever the basic line was. So I don't know whether the writers had figured out what the plan was, but it feels like as we get closer to the finale, we are going to figure it out because this episode did tell us we're officially halfway through her probation period of this setup they've got. Um, so I wonder if the flash drive will come into play in the finale. Will that be her ace in the hole? I think that's what George called it. How will it play into it? What will it will it be imperative in maybe getting him out of prison? We know there is a shot of Jason Priestley in a suit at some point. Is he under assignment? Is there something going on? So yeah, so much happening with that, and I feel like they're probably going to play the long game with that one and make us wait a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, if it just means a few more episodes of the week like we've had so far, I'm perfectly on board with that.
Hmm. Which that is next week is another episode of the week because we are doing a Twilight-esque episode with Ashley Green guest
Ah,
starring.
yes,
It's gonna be super fun. I think this probably will end up being one where we don't get necessarily a lot of information about the characters. It's just gonna be a vibe, which I'm kind of cool with that after coming off of this
yeah,
one.
Hmm.
yeah, definitely. They fed us this week.
The one
They
thing I
did.
didn't like, and it just ties into me disliking Rachel as a viewer, was that I ended up doubting Max for a little bit.
And what
Mm,
When the power
part?
went out, when the power went out at her house, and the people showed up and she ran out of that room with Albert. Like I knew that scene kind of like hinted that something was gonna like she was gonna do something. And for a second I was like, Max, what did you do? Did you is there like, because Rachel was like she believed that Max had something to do with it, right? That those people showed
Mhm.
up. And I was like, girl, what did you do? And I felt so bad when I realized that she had nothing to do with that. It was the tracker on his car.
Mm.
No, she does have something to do with it. The whole setup is so that he can get free. She called
Oh, I thought the
whatchamacallit.
tracker was on the car. Did I completely misread the whole
Tracker
thing?
is on the car, but they put that tracker there. That's why she looks at it oddly when she sees it. Like so,
Wait, so Max did have it.
yes,
Guys, I'm
Oh,
a
okay. I
mess.
missed. I missed that. No,
yes.
Reed. No,
So
Reed. I missed that too. I didn't get that at all.
that's why she calls the fortune teller, and she cashes in on something that she wants from her, and it is to do the wiring. And then so she's the one who turns the power off. Max puts the phone in Albert's jacket. Then I don't know who the two people are that are supposedly trying to take Albert.
Well,
But they
rip
allow them
them.
to get caught. Yeah, it's allowed him to get caught. She might have already noticed the tracker and knew it was going to be happening. I don't know. But that whole
Hmm.
scenario is so she can get Albert free and get the flash drive. So Rachel is right. Rachel's just not right about who Max is. This is a situation that I'm not necessarily sure Alice would be mad about outside of, being in fear for her life because she was passed out on the ground and he was like trying to get her to wake up. But again, Rachel would be a hypocrite because why is it okay for you to have the flash drive and not okay for her to have flash drive? I know she's law
Hmm.
enforcement, but Rachel would have done anything to get that flash drive herself. And it's not necessarily true that she would have given it to her higher ups.
Hmm.
I'm
I missed that.
embarrassed.
Yeah. I missed a lot of that. Uh, okay, so that makes sense now thinking about it that Max did have more involvement in that. I guess this episode was designed to make us doubt Max, but in the end we were left thinking never doubted you for a moment. But maybe there was genuine reason. I think at the end of the day, the title is wild card. She is a wild card in the situation. You don't know what to do with her. She's in a situation that's very controlled and likes regime. And yet, in this episode at the very beginning, the chief told them that the commissioner didn't like how they were handling things and then they needed to handle things better and more within the line of the law. Of course, they were presented with an off-book one, so this one's not going to go down in the things of the records that they've kind of accomplished. So they were allowed to play off-book here, and Alice got to see that by playing things Mac's way, it continues to be successful. Next week, maybe when they're back in the playing games that are in the books, they're going to have to play things by the book. But yeah, Max is definitely playing multiple games here. I think her intentions are good. She is a good-hearted person and she cares deeply for Alice and she likes their dynamic and I think she wants to do good. But at what point will serving herself overtake that? How will the flash drive play into that? Can she get her father out of prison? Again, we don't know. We're halfway through the season and we don't know. In another show, I would say that's terrible. In this show, I think it works for it. Um, yeah, I don't know where it's going to go, but yeah, mission accomplished in making his dad Max, even if it was just for a moment.
Made me love her
I know.
more. I was like, he's not, like, this is not gonna, I was like, ooh, that means the mobster goes free. But you do have a flash drive that you can use whenever you need it. I mean, they might put it in a situation where it's so necessary that Ellis can't even be mad.
Mm,
Mhm.
yeah, I could see that.
I'm just excited for this show. It's just great programming on the CW.
It really is.
I love it so much. Come away with every episode with a big smile on your face.
Yes. But that ends our pod episode, you guys. Thank you for watching. Oh yeah, because you're no longer necessarily listening. Because
Yeah.
but we are the CW Spiral. I'm Sabrina.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Reed.
Bye, y'all.